Vanessa Reed walked into the gleaming showroom of Monarch Elite Motors with quiet steps and determined eyes. She wore a soft gray hoodie, slightly faded jeans, and sneakers that had seen better days. Her hair was pulled back in a low ponytail, and she carried nothing but a small black handbag. As the glass doors closed behind her, the hum of hushed conversations and the scent of polished leather surrounded her. She ignored the stares. She wasn't here to impress. She was here for a purpose. Across the floor, sales manager Trent Mallory noticed her immediately. He leaned toward a colleague and chuckled under his breath. "Another window shopper," he muttered. "Probably just wants selfies next to the Ferraris." The showroom was a temple of wealth. McLarens, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, all arranged like sacred relics. Vanessa didn't hesitate. Her eyes locked onto a sapphire blue Aston Martin Vantage, perched elegantly on a rotating platform. She moved toward it with the kind of quiet certainty that made Trent uncomfortable. Before she could get too close, he stepped in front of her, all charm and arrogance. "Excuse me, miss," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "This section is for serious buyers. Maybe you'd be more comfortable browsing our pre-owned vehicles? The lot's around the back." Vanessa blinked. "I'm here for this one," she replied evenly, pointing to the Vantage. "It's a birthday gift for someone very special." Trent's smile hardened. "This model starts at $320,000, he said slowly, as if explaining rocket science to a child. "We usually work by appointment for high-end inventory like this." "I can wait," Vanessa replied calmly. "I'm ready to make a purchase today." A few feet away, a group of young sales reps laughed quietly. One even raised his phone, pretending to take a candid of the crazy lady dreaming big. Trent, now visibly irritated, stepped closer. "Look," he said, dropping all pretense of politeness. "People come in here every week playing dress-up. But this isn't a fantasy playground. It's a business. You're wasting our time." Vanessa's cheeks burned, not with shame, but with rising fury. She had seen this look before. The instant judgment, the assumption that because she didn't wear Chanel or stilettos, she couldn't possibly belong. She looked Trent in the eye. "Just because I dress for comfort doesn't mean I can't afford what you sell," she said quietly. "But thank you for showing me exactly who you are." With dignity intact, she turned and walked out. Phones were still recording. Laughter echoed in her wake. What they didn't know was this. Tomorrow morning, Vanessa would return, but not alone, and not as a stranger. Tomorrow, the truth would drive through those same doors. In a car none of them had ever dared dream of selling. The next morning arrived with a brilliance the city rarely saw. Sunlight scattered like diamonds across the glass skyline, and the hum of traffic seemed almost reverent. At Monarch Elite Motors, the day began like any other. Trent Mallory stood in front of the mirror inside the staff lounge, adjusting his perfectly knotted silk tie. His Rolex caught the light as he flexed his wrist, admiring the crispness of his navy suit. Yesterday's incident, as he called it, had become a source of amusement. "Some hoodie-wearing wannabe walked in asking for an Aston," he recounted to two junior salesmen, laughing as he sipped his espresso. "Thought she could buy a Vantage like she was shopping at Target. I almost felt bad. Almost." The showroom gleamed under pristine lighting. A soft instrumental playlist whispered in the background as the staff reviewed their schedules and prepared for the day's clientele. Business magnates, celebrities, and the hyper-rich who knew how to make an entrance. At 10:12 a.m., it happened. A deep, resonant purr echoed down the street, subtle but unmistakably regal. Heads turned toward the glass facade just in time to witness a Rolls Royce Phantom glide silently into the dealership's entrance circle. It wasn't just any Phantom. It was a bespoke model, Sierra Midnight Blue with champagne interior and a signature two-tone trim that sparkled under the rising sun. A chauffeur, dressed in white gloves and charcoal livery, exited the driver's seat and circled the car with military precision. The silence that followed was immediate, suffocating. The back door opened with a soft click. From the cabin emerged a man whose very presence altered the air in the room. Tall, commanding, with tailored charcoal slacks and a dove-gray blazer, cut to perfection, Sebastian Ward didn't need an introduction. His name alone stirred whispers. Tech billionaire, philanthropist, one of Forbes' most elusive moguls. He didn't live for press. He lived for results. And now he was here. Trent's blood pressure spiked. The smile returned to his face like a reflex. This was the kind of client dreams were made of. He bolted toward the doors, past stunned staff members frozen in place. "Good morning, sir," Trent called out, voice smoother than glass. "Welcome to Monarch Elite Motors. I'm Trent Mallory, sales manager. It's an honor to... I'm here for a specific vehicle," Sebastian said without offering his hand. Trent faltered slightly, then recovered. "Of course, Mr. Ward. Anything you want. We just received a fresh shipment of Bentleys, Ferraris, and even 2 McLarens. The Aston Martin Vantage," Sebastian interrupted. The words hit like a dart. Trent blinked. "Ah, an excellent choice. May I ask how you heard about that model?" "My wife expressed interest yesterday," Sebastian replied, eyes unreadable. "She came in a hoodie. Jeans, everything inside." Trent went cold. "Vanessa." Sebastian's jaw tightened. "You refused her, told her to visit the used lot." I wasn't aware," Trent stammered. "Surely someone else may have assisted." "You personally turned her away, mocked her, suggested she wasn't our kind of customer." His voice wasn't raised, but every syllable was sharpened to a blade. Across the room, junior employees whispered, recognizing the collapse of everything Trent stood on. "I deeply apologize, sir," Trent began, but Sebastian raised a hand to silence him. Behind the glass, the showroom doors opened again. Vanessa stepped inside. But this time, she wasn't in a hoodie. She wore a slate blue silk blouse, neatly tucked into tailored ivory slacks. Her hair was swept back in a low, elegant twist, and her expression was calm but unflinching. On her wrist was a modest but elegant Cartier watch, and the shoes she wore, flats, still, spoke of comfort, not status. Still, every head turned. There was no question this woman belonged. Trent nearly choked. "Mrs. Reed," he said too loudly, too late. "It's wonderful to see you again." "I'll bet," Vanessa replied coolly. "But I'm not here to be seen. I'm here to be heard." Trent's face flushed. Sebastian stepped forward, speaking now to the dealership's owner, Graham Vickers, who had emerged from his office moments earlier, drawn by the tension rippling across the floor. "Mr. Vickers," Sebastian began, "I came here today ready to purchase not only the Aston Martin for Vanessa, but also to explore a fleet expansion for our foundation and private partners. 12 vehicles in total." Vickers paled, the color draining from his once confident posture. "But after learning how your staff treats potential clients based on clothing, I'm reevaluating." "I can assure you this is not representative," Vickers stammered. "I'm not interested in corporate excuses," Vanessa cut in. "I'm interested in change." Her voice wasn't loud, but it rang like truth in a place built on facades. "I'm not the only one who walks into places like this and gets judged, but I am one of the few who can walk out and still afford the car. What about the nurse who saved for a decade? The teacher with inheritance? The small business owner who shows up in work boots?" Vanessa's eyes scanned the staff. "How many people have you turned away just because they didn't look the part?" No one spoke. "I'd like to suggest a new policy," she continued. "Sales based on inquiry, not income guesses. Service based on respect, not shoes. And training on unconscious bias." Sebastian nodded. "If those changes are made, and if Trent is no longer employed here, we'll consider continuing our purchase plans." Gasps swept the floor. Trent's lips parted, but nothing came out. For the first time, he had no comeback. Graham Vickers turned to him. "Trent, I think it's best you clear out your desk." Monarch Elite Motors rolled out its new initiative, the Reed Ward policy, named in quiet tribute to the woman whose dignity ignited transformation. All staff now underwent mandatory equity training. Clients of all backgrounds were welcomed with equal courtesy. Inside Vanessa's home, the Aston Martin sat wrapped in a crimson bow. Her younger sister, Elaine, burst into tears when she saw it. Her dream car, a gift from a sister who saw her worth even when the world didn't. But the biggest change wasn't the car. It was in Trent. Though fired, he reached out to Sebastian, asking to volunteer with the Ward Initiative, a nonprofit founded by Vanessa and Sebastian that funded education and mobility for underrepresented communities. Vanessa, after long thought, allowed it, because redemption, she believed, was possible, but only if earned. Some stories begin with a judgment and end with justice. Vanessa Reed never wanted revenge. She wanted respect. And in demanding it, with grace and strength, she didn't just change one man, she changed a system. And perhaps next time someone walks into a showroom in sneakers, they'll be treated like the person they are, not the person someone assumes they're not. For the first time in a decade, Trent Mallory woke up without a title, without a job, and without the quiet armor of superiority he had worn like a second skin. The coffee didn't taste the same. The Rolex on his wrist didn't feel like a badge anymore, just a metal band. He had replayed that moment 1,000 times. Vanessa Reed's voice, measured, calm, devastating. Sebastian Ward's silence that held more weight than any insult. And Graham Vickers' final words. Clear out your desk. It was all gone in a flash. The corner office, the power lunches, the illusion of control. What remained was silence and reflection. For days, Trent avoided the world. He deleted social media. He ignored texts from former colleagues, some pitying, some mocking. But one message lingered. Not from Vanessa, not from Graham, from Sebastian Ward. If you're serious about changing, we have a volunteer opportunity this Saturday. 9 a.m., don't be late, and wear something that can get dirty. The words echoed in his mind as he stood in front of the Bright Steps Adaptive Sports Complex, a gleaming new center in South Boston funded by the Ward Foundation. A banner flapped in the wind. Building strength, restoring dignity. One child at a time. He hadn't known what to expect. But it wasn't this. Dozens of kids in wheelchairs and walkers lined up with shining eyes, gripping colorful basketballs. Volunteers in matching t-shirts bustled around, setting up nets, passing out equipment, guiding small hands into gloves and braces. Trent felt like a statue among them. His tailored polo shirt suddenly felt out of place. Too clean, too stiff. Then came a tap on the shoulder. "You're late," said a young boy, grinning up at him from a wheelchair. He had bright hazel eyes, messy curls, and a whistle hanging around his neck like he ran the place. "Name's Carter. I'm your boss today." Trent blinked. "Right, I know who you are," Carter interrupted without malice. "You're the guy who told Miss Vanessa she didn't belong. That was dumb, huh?" Trent opened his mouth, then closed it. "Yeah," he admitted. "It was." Carter's face lit up. "Cool. I like honest grown-ups. Come on, you're with Team Phoenix." And just like that, Trent Mallory was no longer a sales manager. He was a rebound catcher, a chair pusher, a sideline cheerleader for a team of 8-year-olds who had been judged far more than he ever had and never stopped fighting anyway. What began as punishment slowly turned into purpose. Each Saturday, Trent returned, at first to pay a moral debt, but slowly something deeper pulled him back. The joy in Carter's laugh, the confidence in shy kids taking their first free throw, the pride when a game ended and nobody cared who won. One afternoon, Vanessa showed up, not as a judge, as a mentor. She sat beside him on the bench while Carter ran drills with other kids. "You came back," she said quietly. "I didn't expect to," Trent replied, watching Carter dribble a ball with one hand while steering with the other. "But it's hard to look away once you see what really matters." Vanessa studied him. "You were good at pretending before." "I know," Trent admitted, "but here I don't have to pretend." Vanessa smiled, not with approval, but recognition. "Then maybe you're learning something after all." He turned toward her. "I want to do more, not just volunteer. I want to change how people like me treat people like them." "That's a start," she said, "but change isn't about words. It's about habits." Weeks turned to a month. Trent no longer checked the time. He stayed long after events ended. He wiped sweat off wheelchairs, taped sprained wrists, listened to parents who hadn't had a break in months. Then one day, Sebastian pulled him aside. "We have a proposal," he said, handing Trent a folder. "The Ward Foundation is opening a second center in Atlanta. We need someone to oversee training, both for volunteers and community partners." "You want me?" Trent asked, stunned. "After everything?" Sebastian nodded. "Because of everything." Trent swallowed hard. "But I humiliated Vanessa. I misjudged her." "And she forgave you," Sebastian said, "because you earned it. Now you get to choose who you become next." 1 month later, the Ward Reed Foundation Gala transformed Boston's Grand Meridian Hotel into a night of light, laughter, and second chances. Trent wore a plain black suit, no tie, no ego. He stood by the registration table, checking names and guiding guests. He bent down to help adjust the strap on a girl's orthotic brace and high-fived a boy who showed off his new prosthetic leg. Across the room, Vanessa stood in a flowing navy dress, simple and graceful. She greeted families with hugs and donors with heartfelt thanks. Sebastian joined her, his arm around her waist, proud but quiet. Trent approached as the night slowed. Vanessa turned and nodded. "How's Carter?" she asked. "Still calling me Coach T," Trent replied with a smile. "He says I yell too much when they miss layups." "You yell?" "Encouragement yelling," Trent clarified, laughing. They stood together in a silence full of understanding. "I'm sorry it took losing everything to learn what really matters," Trent said. "You didn't lose everything," Vanessa replied softly. "You just found the things that can't be bought." He nodded, eyes misting. Then came Sebastian, holding a champagne flute, grinning. "So, you ready for Atlanta?" Trent looked around the room. The children, the parents, the energy of a better world being built one life at a time. "I'm ready," he said. "Not every fall is fatal. Sometimes it's just the beginning of flight." Trent Mallory used to think power came from prestige, wealth, control. Now he knew the truth. Power is what you do with the second chance someone gives you when they didn't have to. Vanessa Reed never asked for revenge. She planted seeds of change, and in Trent, those seeds took root. Not because he was perfect, because he listened, because he stayed, because he showed up, not just once, but every time it mattered. And because sometimes the best way to say, "I'm sorry," is to become someone who no longer needs to. The night had grown quieter now. The last speeches had been made. The final auction item, a signed adaptive wheelchair designed by a young athlete, had gone to a donor in tears. String lights glowed like fireflies across the ballroom ceiling, casting a golden warmth over the fading buzz of conversation and clinking glasses. Vanessa stood near the far end of the room, her hand resting on Sebastian's arm as they spoke to a couple whose son had just been accepted into a national parabasketball program. Her eyes shone, not from the chandeliers above, but from the lives she had touched, and the gratitude reflected back at her. Across the room, Trent Mallory stood beside a photo booth, helping Carter back into his wheelchair after posing with a goofy hat and a giant foam finger. "You know what, Mr. Blake?" Carter said, getting his former nickname wrong on purpose like always. "You're actually pretty cool, for a grown-up." Trent chuckled, kneeling to fasten the brake. "Coming from you, that means the world." He looked around the room, at the kids in gowns and tuxes modified for braces and chairs, the parents dancing with laughter, the donors talking not about profits, but progress. A month ago, he would have dismissed it all as fluff. Now he knew better. Here was real wealth, not counted in zeros, but in second chances, in dignity restored, in hands held without judgment. Vanessa approached quietly, her smile soft. "You survived the gala," she teased. "Barely," Trent replied. "Carter's been roasting my dance moves all night." "He has a point," she deadpanned. They shared a laugh. Then Vanessa grew thoughtful. This wasn't just about one bad moment in a showroom. It was about what that moment represented. How easy it is to forget that value doesn't come from labels or bank accounts or suits. It comes from how we treat people when no one important is watching. Trent nodded slowly. "I used to think success meant standing out. Now I know. Sometimes it means standing beside someone who needs you." Behind them, the photographer called for a final group shot. Vanessa waved Sebastian over. Carter rolled up beside them. A mother pulled her daughter into the frame. Trent hesitated. Then Carter grabbed his hand. "You're part of this too, Coach T. Come on." And so in the closing shot of the night, a room full of fighters, dreamers, healers, and once skeptics stood together. No one was posing for status. They were posing for memory. The flash went off, and in that single second, something eternal was captured. Not just redemption, not just gratitude, but a reminder that true wealth isn't measured in what you keep, it's in what you give. Life lesson: true wealth is measured in grace. We live in a world obsessed with appearances, what we wear, what we drive, what we post online. But this story reminds us of something far more important. Your worth is never defined by how you look, but by how you treat others when no one's watching. Vanessa Reed walked into a luxury showroom and was dismissed for not looking the part. She didn't yell. She didn't demand. She walked out with dignity and returned with purpose. She didn't seek revenge. She chose to educate, elevate, and empower. And in doing so, she transformed not just one man, but an entire system. The real lesson here isn't about cars or wealth. It's about character, about the courage to stand your ground without losing your grace, about knowing that every human being deserves respect until they give you a reason otherwise, not the other way around. So if you ever feel overlooked, underestimated, or judged by the surface, remember this. Those who can't see your value never had the vision to begin with. And if you're ever in a position of power, even a small one, use it not to gatekeep, but to uplift. Because true wealth isn't what you own, it's who you've helped along the way.